Hmm. Hello and welcome everyone today in our live session with Jasmine Greenaway about global work experience and our experience in her experience in Microsoft and how to apply to this kind of giant companies. I'm Abdurrahman Rajab, a computer engineer, GitHub field expert, and Microsoft Learn ambassador. Uh, we all know that working in giant companies is such a dream for a lot of departments and students around the world. Yet not everyone can have that chance, and not everyone can know how to apply to this kind of jobs. A lot of students struggles with preparing their CVs, going through interviews, questions, and even finding the best role and position for themselves. That's why we are honored today to have Jasmine Greenaway to talk about working at Microsoft and give us some kind of tips for your job and career preparation. Jasmine is a New York-based developer and senior cloud advocate at Microsoft. Her years of software development experience has led her to different development environments like industries, such as in retail, gaming, and developer tooling. She also teaches the basics of web development as a adjunct professor at a local college. Outside of work, she volunteers as a co-organizer at Brooklyn JS, a monthly meetup held in Brooklyn, New York City. Welcome to the show, Jasmine Greenaway.
Hi, thank you for welcoming me, introducing me. And, I just want, before I start off, I just know that a number of you are, uh, are experiencing or going through Ramadan right now. And I just want to wish you a Ramadan Mubarak. Just best wishes. So I'm Jasmine Greenaway. I'm a cloud advocate at Microsoft. I've been at Microsoft for about 3 years now, a little bit over 3 years now. What I do right now is I work in a part of engineering called developer relations. And what that is connecting with the community. So that's connecting to the community through technology. So, before that, I was a software engineer at GitHub. I worked on some developer tooling there. Before that, I was at Rockstar Games. They have created games uh, Grand Theft Auto, Red Dead Redemption, those games. And then before that, I was working at Sears, the real retail company. I was working at at their their home improvement their home improvement department, working on some internal things for customers as well as salespeople. And then before that, I was at a small startup in that was near my college. And the way that I actually got started into my industry, or into the tech industry, was a very unique experience. So I went to school in Florida in this small private college named Embry-Riddle Aeronautical University. I wanted to be a scientist, and I was going to school for weather science or meteorology. And I minored in computer science because I knew it would give me a good competitive edge. I knew it would be good for when I apply into go to a role as a scientist. But I liked computer science better. And a class on the language Perl, scripting language Perl, changed the course of my career and course of my future. And for me, I will say it was probably one of the best decisions of my life. I really enjoy building, and I've really been enjoying my work at Microsoft, being able to connect with academic communities and talk about the cloud. So in my career, I've been working professionally since 2008. So that is what 12 10, so 2018 would be 10 years. So it's 2021 now. So 13 years. Wow. Right. Oh my goodness. Wow. In that time, I've went through multiple jobs and got my master's degree in software engineering. I got my undergrad in software engineering too. And the difference between that and computer science is that computer science is a lot about computer science theory and a lot of, computer science foundations. But software engineering is more of those foundations, as well as project management, understanding how to test your code, understanding how to build the right product. So all that to say is that, my experience has led me to put together these tips that I think will be beneficial for anybody who is getting a role in tech. And one thing that I want to mention is that a lot of these tips, just think about them where a lot of this is coming from a perspective of somebody who is based in the US. So I would just say check with your country's, culture around how they apply or how they apply to roles. But in general, for roles in tech, a lot of these things are going to apply to you no matter where you are. So on that note, we're going to get started. So here I have on my screen here, notice that I did not have any slides today because, I feel like getting a role in tech is just, there's so many things I could put in a slide, but I feel like I just wanted to make this into a checklist form and just talk to you all more, talk to the community more, and then as well as, just share this link so that you can kind of look through it yourself. So the link is in the YouTube description, so definitely check it out. And while I'm going through these questions or going through these points, please feel free to add comments in the chat and ask your questions, because I will be pausing for questions quite often. So the first thing you should think about when you're preparing for a role in tech is get yourself prepared. Get yourself prepared for your role. So I always like to, lately I've been saying that the things that I do today are going to be good for the future version of myself, or my future self. So pre-preparation is for your future self, for your future roles, for your future application process, because pre-preparation will make it easier and make it less of a headache when you get the interview, when you start submitting your resume. Because some of these things you're not going to think about until you want to click submit on your resume and you are like, oh no, I forgot this thing. But one thing you want to keep in mind is that preparation will make you feel more confident. So that's another piece of it too, is just feeling confident and feeling ready for the job that you apply. When you apply for these roles, you want to feel as close as possible as, like, if you applied to this role today and somebody interviewed you an hour later, and you want to feel prepared for that. And you don't want to feel like that 100%. I understand that, like, it's like that's almost impossible, but you want to feel as close as possible as if you were to apply for a role and someone were to interview you an hour later. So that's what preparation is really all about. So now let's go through this list. So understanding the roles that are of interest to you, and understanding that your interest might change. Change is good. Tech is, moving at a fast rate. I was talking to somebody the other day, and they were talking about how they had to get rid of a bunch of old programming books that were like 4 or 5 years old, because at that point, those books were obsolete. There were some foundational pieces in there, but a lot of the stuff in there is going to be outdated. And change is good. That makes, our jobs competitive. It makes, the change makes it easy, or it makes it exciting. And not only is the tech industry always changing, the nature of the technology is changing as well. So you can change too. You can change with the industry. For example, I was a software engineer, and then I moved on to uh, um, develop a relations. And I've changed. I've changed into the cloud. I've changed into community, and that is fine, and that is good. And I'm a few years, I'm over 10 years into my career, and I still have a lot of ways to go. Like, I could change again. So change is good. And knowing what you want, um knowing what you want, especially in the beginning of your career, is hard, because when I got my first internship, I didn't know that's what I wanted to do. I enjoyed web development. And at GitHub, I did less web development, and I found that although it was fun, it wasn't like web development. It wasn't the same type of thinking. So all this to say is that it's okay if you don't know what you want in the beginning. Just think about what is of interest to you, because you don't want to end up in something where you kind of don't enjoy. Second is be honest. Be honest about where your skills are, and what you put on your resume, because at the end of the day, you don't want to get into an interview where you are you feel unprepared. It's all about being prepared. And so if you took like I said in this list here, if you took a small tutorial on a a site, which is good. It's good that you did that, but what are you doing with it? Definitely, I would say don't put it on a resume unless you've built something with it, unless you've built an actual project. So for example, if you take that tutorial on technology and build on top of that and make it larger than the tutorial, that would maybe you could put on your resume. Especially if you're in your first 5 years. But if not, don't put it on your resume. There will be a time where you can, but it's not today if you're just starting with a tutorial. Same with technologies that you're not as technologies that you don't enjoy working with. So for me, there are a few languages that I can write, but some of them I wouldn't want to do as a job. And that's okay. That's 100% okay. So just keep that in mind. Just be honest. Networking. I know that we have all talked about networking in tech and how it can help us get that role. And I will say for myself that a lot of my career moves and career changes have come through networking opportunities. But one thing that's important is that you're making connections with people that you like, people that you enjoy being around, because it can't just only be about what you want and what you need. You're going to make friends. You make friends in your communities, you make friends at school, you make friends in life. And these are people you enjoy being around. So if you're going to be doing work with them, if you might be doing work with them in the future. So you want to make sure that they're people that you like, because it makes the work fun and it makes the work interesting and it makes it more enjoyable. So when you're networking, you meet somebody at a virtual conference or in-person conference, when we finally can do that, and you like this person and you like them as a friend, then you should make sure that you check in on them. Say how are you doing? What are you working on? Can we work on this together? Because you just never know. When they'll come back and say, hey, I remember this person. I remember this person was looking for this role. And they might reach out to you. Be prepared for rejection. This is one of the hardest things about looking for a role in tech. If you go on Twitter and you just go to tech Twitter, you will see so many people talk about, how many roles they had to apply for before, they got the job. And this really just, it doesn't feel good. It doesn't feel good. No one feels good being rejected. And it's really just part of the process. And don't feel like you're less than anybody else. It's really about, just perseverance and some patience and understanding that don't take the rejection personally, as well as luck. I will say that, sometimes you're just in the right place at the right time to get the role. That definitely happens. Another thing that I realized in my career is that it gets easier as you have more experience. After I got that first role, so when I did my internship, I got hired full time, and at that point, I was considering looking at some other jobs, and I applied. And the first time I applied, I didn't get many calls back. But then about a year later, I tried again, and I got more calls back. So the more experience you have, the more opportunities will show up. But really, that first hump is getting that first job and getting some experience there. And then I already mentioned tech Twitter, but I really, especially early in my career, I would look at, what people are doing in the tech industry. I would look at their LinkedIn, I would look at their Twitter, I would look at their websites and see what they've built, what they're working on. Because, when we learn code, when we learn how to code, we look at other people's code. So why can't we look at someone else's experience and see how that applies to our lives, how we can apply that to our career or our path? So look at people on LinkedIn and Twitter who you look up to and see what they did to get to where they are. And then the last one is know what it takes to get prepared for an interview. So if you want a coding career, there's going to be a chance you might have to study algorithms. You might have to do some a take-home project. You might have to do some things. You might have to do pair programming. And some applications actually tell you what the technical interview will be like. Which is nice, but some don't. But just understand what it takes to get prepared for doing that. So for coding, it's algorithms. If you're coding for web development, it might be algorithms, as well as understanding things like how to make a GET request or a POST request and things like that. Knowing what a 404 is, knowing how a browser works, those little pieces there. Same thing with a PM, understanding how to problem solve, understanding how to handle conflict resolution, now understanding how to communicate, which is important for any roles, but specifically for a project manager or a product manager. So on that note, I don't see any questions in the chat quite yet, but but feel free to add them here, and I'm going to keep going. But yeah, put your questions in the chat if you want me to clarify anything, or if you want me to talk a little bit more in detail about anything that I touch on. So once you kind of done that pre-preparation, now it's time for you to put yourself out there. Now you could probably swap this, and this is kind of not in order. The pre-preparation is kind of the first thing I would say to do. And I would say that you can probably put yourself out there and work on your resume at the same time if you haven't already. But putting yourself out there is so important because, when a hiring manager or a recruiter is looking at your resume and they see that you're out and about in the community, at least they have a story. They have a story that they can put together, right? And so that's kind of where that pre-preparation part comes in. Like, you did the work to understand what it is, what technology that you're into, and you should be proud of the progress that you made to get yourself to a point to apply. It's very, feeling that you're capable and ready to get that role is a sense of pride. So you should be proud of the work that got you there. So your GitHub, any blogs that you write, Twitter, Dev2, show that confidence in that technology that you have. So one example I really wanted to show was this lead developer. Her name is Vitahe, and she blogged every day, every Monday for a year about computer science. She was making a career choice. She was making a career move. She used to be, I believe, a writer, and she ended up blogging every day about computer, or every Monday about computer science. And guess what? She started. I think she started in 2017, making her career switch in 2016 and 2017, and that was 4 years ago. And now she's a lead developer. I mean, because she took the time to really show her work, showed what she learned, and not only is she showing what she learned, she is reinforcing what she learned. So this is a really great example. Another one is a MSA, or a student ambassador named Anush. He talks about his experience as a hackathon participant. So again, just sharing it out there. I just so happened to see it out there in LinkedIn. So just knowing that this is out there. If I'm seeing this, maybe a hire manager is seeing this. So yeah, and then so here is my GitHub. So that on GitHub you can do a README. You can make a README repository and kind of talk a little bit about yourself. So that's what I did here. So, and then also in GitHub you have that feature. You have that feature where you can pin all of your favorite repositories. Pin the repositories that you're proudest of. Definitely put them up there. So I see that a question came here in the chat, and Mustafa says, how to prepare for job interviews, especially in the field of software? Yes. So I would say, yes, studying algorithms. There's a book called Preparing for the Job Interview that I believe it's called. I know it's on Amazon, but I think it's called Preparing for the Job Interview. It's really about, I feel like when you're studying in the field of software. Awesome. Sorry, just reading these comments here. So yeah, so in the field of software, I would say start with programming foundations. So studying your algorithms, understanding data structures and things like that, and also coding. Understanding the algorithms is a good or writing code is I understand the algorithm is a good piece of it, but writing code is going to probably be part of your job if you're developing software, right? So, you always just want to continue practicing. So, understanding, why would you even want this algorithm? Why would this fit into, your typical workday is another piece there too. So understanding why this algorithm would be a question or a thing in an interview, because that might mean that somebody might be using it in their day-to-day job. So another thing about preparing for a software interview is also understanding how to talk through a problem. So a lot of roles that I've been in have done this thing called pair programming, where somebody's writing code and somebody else is kind of talking through what we're working on next and what we're doing. So just keep in mind that in your job interview, especially now that we're all home, you're gonna find yourself probably in a virtual interview, which means that somebody might be a little scary, but somebody might be watching you write code. So that's why I say that pre-preparation is so important, to take pride in writing and take pride in your work, because that will just build your confidence. And not only is, developing software such an important piece of a coding job, but being able to communicate is really important too. That's always, always an important piece. Like, how do you write an email? How do you write a good email? How do you write an email asking for what you need and what you want in a nice way that somebody can understand? We're all remote now. So now you can't just talk to somebody, on video chat all the time. Sometimes the only thing you can do is send a direct message or, a work message. So how do you do that in chat? What is, that etiquette? So those are the two. I guess that's really what I would say. So if you are in your first or second year, definitely, studying your algorithms, showing your work, and your GitHub and your blog, wherever that you like to show your work, and also understanding just, basic business communication etiquette, because communication will get you very far. Being able to persuade people, being able to communicate what you want is a very important piece of working in any industry. So that will take you far. I see another question here from Mohammed. I see that you are also teaching while working in tech, which is something I do too. Oh, thank you. Yes, I really enjoy doing that. It's also another way that I like to learn. And it's actually also a piece here as well too, where I say help and teach others. It's a great way to build your connections, as well as, going to conferences and hackathons and, connecting in LinkedIn. So, what do you suggest to have our CV viewed for Microsoft applications? Okay, yes, I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get there soon. But I feel like these other pieces here are really important before we get to having our to the CV part. But we will definitely get there. Another thing that I want to tell you is that experience doesn't always have to come from full-time jobs. Do you have a friend that's maybe either making a restaurant, making a little business, maybe they're not technical, and they need a website? Can you do that? Yes? Then build it for them. Put that on your resume. Have you been in a hackathon? And you work together with somebody, and you really liked working with them and you did good work, ask them for a LinkedIn recommendation. That's experience. People want to know, like, how well you work with others, and they want to see your work. So just remember that a job is not the only place that you can get experience. I know there's lots of lots of sites where you can say that you have a particular set of skills that someone needs. So, for example, taking that example of building a website for somebody, I know there's companies like Fiverr and TaskRabbit. I don't know if they're available outside the U.S., but if you have a site like that, or experience like that, or access to a site like that, put yourself out there, show your work, show what work you've done, and then you can tell your rate, and then have people come in, and you can build sites or whatever you do for them, because that is still experience. So keep that in mind. And then the other thing about that is that, especially if you're new to the industry, but you have the experience, I will say that some of these jobs, or some of these side I call them gigs, or side work, their experience, but because you are so new, they might be a little on the lower end compared to other people who have been doing it for years. And that's okay, because some of these people who are looking for skills like yours, they are going to be looking for something at low cost. And so even though that it's, you're still getting paid, it's low cost to them, and low to you, that's still experience on your resume. So just keep that in mind. So yeah, so also um yeah, so I see, I'm just looking at some other questions here. I have contributed to a few mini open source. I have contributed to a few mini open source projects. How does that help my applications? How can I contribute to large projects? Yes. So I would say little by little. Um, you know, it's how do I say this? Open source is such an amazing piece of building your skills because you're collaborating with others and you're also contributing and also building your skills and collaborating with others, and it's just such a great way for you to really put it on your resume, because the more that you contribute, the more you get comfortable with the community, and the more you feel confident in building and working in the industry, or working on those projects. So for example, when I started GitHub, when I started working in tech, I was really afraid of GitHub. I didn't want to use it much because I couldn't afford. So in the past, GitHub did not always have private repos for free. And I couldn't afford to pay to have, private repos. And so, for a while I was really shy about putting my code out there. But in the end, I realized that people are, interested in seeing what you're working on. And it's also, at the end, it's not a big deal. It's a big deal that you're contributing, but not everyone's going to be double checking, looking at your code unless you're applying for a role. So, I was really nervous about putting myself out there, but it's, one of the best ways that you can learn. And open source is a really great way to do that, especially when you have a good community that helps you and guides you through that process. Because, in an open source community, there's things like coding style and the way that you document your code that's important. And you're going to have that same experience at any job. So yes, open source definitely helps. So this is a question from Osama. How do you find working with Microsoft in comparison with other tech companies? Microsoft's huge. Microsoft's a huge company, and this is probably the largest company I've worked with. And one of the biggest things that I've seen with Microsoft is the communication style. At GitHub, we spent a lot of time talking in chat, and at Microsoft, I spent a lot of my time communicating in email. And, I think that's just a company culture thing. Microsoft's been around for a very long time. And, in my experience, before chat clients really took off, there was always email. And I feel like culturally, because Microsoft has been around for so long, that it started off as email, and like traditionally that's what people use. But now that we have Teams, I'm finding more and more people communicating through chat for quick things and things like that. Another thing that I would say is that just the connections I've made. There's just so many people, and one of the important pieces of Microsoft is being able to collaborate not only with your team members, but other people who are in other teams. So it's been a really great experience meeting all these different people through all these different projects. How many hours do I work a day? Oh, so I have been working remotely since 2015 when I started at GitHub. 2014. I don't. It's been a few years, and I try to do 8 hours a day, but some days, sometimes it's like a lot. And I would say that the way that I like to work, I like to split up. That anything that I'm doing for my job is counted as work. So whether that's, researching some technology, that takes 2 hours, that's 2 hours of work. If I am writing emails, I spend like a good like maybe 3 hours a day, like throughout my day, writing emails. So that's another 3 hours of work. Um, either writing documentation or meetings, things like that. I count that all as work. And the way I like to do that is I like to split up my day. So in the mornings, I'll usually answer emails. And then, after lunch, I'll usually answer some more emails. And in the evening, at the end of the day, I'll usually answer, any other emails. And then sometimes I go for a walk in the park. And out there, maybe I'm reading some technology stuff. Maybe I am, doing whatever. It's still work. It's just because it's somewhere else doesn't mean it's not work. And, I will say that, I do have that privilege of being able to do that with, bring my device out, tether my phone and be able to work in a park. So yeah, and that, I guess that's one of the nice things about working from home is that, I don't always have to be in front of my desk like this. I can, take my work with me. Okay. So what do you advise as a computer engineering student? What should I master besides coding? As a computer engineering student, so I would say understanding hardware. From computer engineering, electrical engineering, computer engineering, they have such a strong connection. Like you might have to understand how to build circuits. I mean, for me, I don't do a lot of hardware stuff, but I do know that requires machine code, that requires also C, that requires electronic stuff. And if you are doing computer engineering, that sounds like what you would be looking at. And again, I would say look at other people who are doing computer engineering in the industry. What does their resume look like? What does their LinkedIn look like? What does their experience look like? Where have they worked? What is there a similar job description of what they do at that company, or wherever you are looking for computer engineering. So it really just means like what are the skills that are employable? What have people in the past done or learned or experienced to get to where they are today? Okay, so I know someone asked about resumes and CVs. So I'm going to move on to that before I answer any more questions. So resumes. This is a very common question that we see a lot, and on the end of the day, there are so many resources out there. Like if you do a quick like web search, you're gonna find some quality answers. But in my experience, the things that I would prioritize in order would be what experience, what you've done, what work have you done that has earned you merit or money, then your skills and your certifications, your projects, what have you built that maybe wasn't tied to a job. Maybe it was like something that you built yourself. Your education, which is important. I don't think I would be able to be where I am in tech today if I didn't go through school. Knowing who I am, I need the structure of a university to learn. I needed that. But some people, have better experience of being self-learners, going through boot camps. And, in tech, you can get a job without a degree. You absolutely can. But, and so, some companies, not even just Microsoft, but like lots of companies do not put education as high as a priority. It's really about what you know and what you can do. And then your extracurricular activities, any community work, that's really important because it shows, you have interest outside of, this role. And, they want to see the whole story. They want to see you as a person. And then finally, once you get all those things down, Then you think about the design. You think about what your page looks like, because you want to get the important information there first. Important information there first, then make it look nice. So yeah. So one rule of thumb that I would say is try to make it one page, especially if you're 5 years or less in the industry, because this is, and I know a lot of people have like differing opinions on this, but I would say if you do need 2 pages, you might need to look at this priority list here and see what you can make shorter, and what anything that might be too extra. Make it look good. Like I said, design, important piece, but just think about it at the end. Use tech keywords. This was a really interesting realization for me, is that keywords they're important, because with large companies, a recruiter can't go through each and every one of everyone's resume. So I would just say that using those keywords, and you can again look that up. So instead of saying worked with 5 people, say something like collaborated with 5 people. Use a thesaurus to really find the right words, and also just look up tech resume keywords, and you'll find a bunch of different options. Another thing is that, as I was saying before, you might have more than one interest in tech. And if you find that, for example, this person who mentioned about, being a computer engineering student, say that they also like to be, they have thought and have an experience as a product manager or a project manager, and they want to do either, hardware stuff or project manager, or maybe they want to be a project manager for a hardware company or a hardware project. But they're not sure if they want to do that, or if they just want to do them independently. That actually is 2 resumes. So if you want to put all the skills for your PM role, or for PM job that you want on one resume, and then your coding skills on another resume. And that's fine. That's 100% normal. I have one like that too, where, now that I've been in the industry for so long, I have one that's for leadership, where I want to come out as a leader, and one where I want to be, in the community. And then I also have a third one where I have one as a programmer. So, and I would also say, just keep a record of your resume as you change it. Kind of like how, when we use Git to see how our code changes over time. I would say do that for a resume. I think it's a really great way to look back on how far you've come. And I think it's also a really great way for you to share with others where you were to get where you are, at that point in your future career. Okay. And finally, applying. Read the full description. And also realize that sometimes everything that the description requires might not line up to everything on your resume, and that's fine. Just apply anyway, because sometimes you just never know. Research the company, do the research, because this should be the basis for building your cover letter. I will say that in the past 4-5 years, I have not built a cover letter. I will say that for me, it's become less important as time goes on. But if I were to build a cover letter today, the first thing I'm doing is going to that company's about page and reading about their history, and using that to find, like, is my mission, the things that I want to do, does it align with this company? And expressing that in your cover letter. And the typical formula for a cover letter is always going to be, who are you? How'd you get here? Why are you coming to this company? Why do you want to come to this company? And telling a story about yourself, telling them, either this is why I applied, maybe this company's mission is something that you're really deeply interested about, you can use that in your cover letter and talk about that, because that'll be a great talking point for an interview. And then the second part is what makes you great, what makes you perfect for the role. And you can use the job description as a guide. So if you've ever written like something like an essay where you had to cite your references, this second piece here is saying, I read your description and this is why I am the perfect job person for this role. And using like, this is why, because in this recommendation, you said you needed this, and I can do those things and more. And then eventually, and then, close out, summarize to one, or, summarize those first 2 points. And I would also say, make this one page. And really revise it and look over it before you submit. And this last point here, I have done this. I have definitely used the same cover letter for different roles before. And when I forgot to change the company name on one, they rejected my application within like 3 hours. So just be careful. You can reuse a resume, just double, triple check that you changed the company name. And that's nearly pretty much everything that I wanted to cover today. So, okay. So question about Microsoft application and visa sponsorship. So that is a case-by-case basis. There are a lot of different requirements for that. And I would say for Microsoft, check the career site, because I know there is definitely interview guidance on that. It would be, let's see. So it'd probably be somewhere around careers, and check in there, or just do a quick search and find it. But that's a great question, and it's going to really just change. It changes by country and things like that. So unfortunately, I'm a U.S. citizen, so I don't have much experience and guidance there. But that would be something that you probably want to like search for and check. Okay, so next question. I have applied a few times and got rejected because of sponsorship. I know. Yeah, I'm not really 100% certain about that. I think that you might have to just do some research on, if I'm assuming that you're applying to a role in the U.S., I would say, check the U.S. government's recommendations for visa, because I know there are specific things there, but I can't speak on too much of it because that has not been my experience. But I would say definitely check on that. Also check within your community. If there's anybody that's have gone through the visa process and been able to successfully get a role with a visa, that might be somebody you might want to reach out to and ask how they did it. So could you give me some information about cloud technologies? Cloud technologies, yes. So specifically, I think the one thing that you might want to think about is just, what is the cloud? I think that's a really great starting point. And then, especially if you're a student, look at offerings from cloud providers like Azure Cloud. Like Azure has a student account, Azure student account, that gives you 100 free credits every year, $100 of free credits every year, and that can like go pretty far within a year. So check that out, because usually those, and I'm sure the other cloud providers have them too. Those are always a great way to get started, because what a lot of those, do, especially for students, is they say, okay, here are your credits. Here are these things that you can have. And then here are some resources where you can learn about that specific cloud technology. So I would say sign up for Azure as a student. Sign up for any other cloud provider as a student. I know GitHub also has the student developer pack. That's also another great option. So definitely check that out. Okay, so I wanted to take a look at some internships here because I just wanted to just talk through what I was talking about in that list. So this one is, I don't want to do the PhD one. Let's go find another one. A research intern. That sounds like a PhD. Let's see. Let's find some research intern. It's all research. Let's find some more stuff here. Let's check engineering. Graduate system engineer. Okay, let's try this one here. Okay, I see those questions there, but I'm going to go through this role first, and then we'll talk about, and then I'll answer these questions. So this role is in Taiwan, but that doesn't mean that there aren't other roles like this. But let's see. So you contribute to building next iterations of the cognitive services APIs. So right off the bat, this role is telling you exactly what you're going to be working on. So you're going to be building APIs for cognitive services. Great opportunity for you to search through, do a web search and see what that means. Building performant, efficient multi-platform code and roll out high quality releases on time. So that says that you will be writing. You're going to be writing good code, right? So which means that you probably will be doing maybe a coding test, right? So you probably want to study some algorithms, and it also says roll out high quality releases on time. So another piece here is task management. How do you manage your time? How do you work through a problem when you're having problems in your code? Another extending testing, evaluation, automation frameworks along with telemetry data. So what is telemetry? Why would that be important? And it doesn't mean that you have to know 100%, all of these things, but just being knowledgeable about them because you already know what this role entails and what you'd be doing. So other thing, qualifications. So it says BS degree or higher in computer science, engineering, or related fields. So it doesn't mean that you have to have a BS in computer science or engineering, especially if you have the skills to be able to do this role. Strong experience with a modern object-oriented language, Python, and an interest to learn new technologies. Again, learn new languages. So you don't have to just know Python. If you know some other object-oriented language, then you're good. Problem solving, design, coding, and debugging skills. Can you debug? Can you ability to understand, navigate a new large code base? This is where someone was mentioning about their object-oriented skills or oriented experience. That'd be a great place to talk about that because yes, I remember you talking about you worked on some small projects, but or some small things, but you worked. But I'm sure like a lot of these open source projects are large code bases. So at that point, you knew where to make either a bug fix or add a new feature. And that's important. That's an important piece because you're going to be doing that on a large code base. Strong communication, solving, and collaboration skills. Also good English level. So being able, again, the opportunity of being able to communicate. And then preferred qualifications. So sometimes you might, hit some of these preferred qualifications and if you don't, that's fine. Still apply. Even if you don't meet all of these qualifications here, still apply, right? So, so let's go to some questions. So let's see. Would it be better to talk with somebody? Okay. Oh, is there extracurricular opportunities that is offered from extracurricular events like this one or university recruiting events? Yeah, most likely. I would say that it really check in with your local school, check in with your community, see what's out there. Again, that piece of networking where you might end up finding, coming across a new role or something like that. I would just say just connect with the community. Um, would it be better to talk with somebody from inside the company before applying? I feel like this is I mean, it really depends. Somebody, not just one person can get you, into a role. I would say that if you have a friend or somebody that you've worked with before, um, who would be happy to recommend you, yeah, go ahead and talk with them. Or if you're feeling unsure about a certain role or a certain company, maybe ask somebody. Yeah, ask somebody about it. Sorry. Sorry, there's a little noise in the background there. Anyway, yeah, I would say it's good. It's good to talk with somebody from inside a company, but it doesn't mean, but I guess, what is your goal? If you want to learn more about the company, um, yes, if you're unsure about something, yeah, then yeah, ask somebody about it. But if you're going to apply anyway, just apply. You can apply and then ask somebody about it, and somebody about the company, especially if it's something of interest to you. Are you working with Microsoft as a team or individually? So I work part of a team. I'm part of the cloud advocacy team at Microsoft. So I work with a team of, I think like 5 or 6 people, and then we have a larger um, organization structure. So I work with different teams in that organization as well as teams in different organizations. How does it feel to work at Microsoft? For me, it is honestly, it was a real pleasure to be able to work at Microsoft because the language that I wrote, a language that I'm primarily write in is in C#, and I really enjoy. I really had a dream of like being able to work at a company that like built the language that I write in. So it feels really good, and I feel very supported here, and I feel I don't know. Personally, I feel like I'll be here for a while, and like you'll see a lot of people, that have been at Microsoft for a long time, and that was a really good sign to me. For self learners, how do you make sure what we learned is enough and classified to be in the CV? Look at the qualifications, look at the requirements in a role, look at what other people have done. So like I said, Tech Twitter is a really great place to start that search and look at what people have done, because a lot of these, especially with, I've seen a lot of people who are in the industry for a while, they just put their resume on their webpage, and you can see all the experience. You can see all that they've done. So I would say, yeah, look at other people, look at what they've done. Just like I said, when we look at other people's code, either Stack Overflow or on GitHub, we use it to learn. Same thing with someone's experience. Okay, so what kind of skills and activities recruiters look for in the application? So I'm not quite a recruiter, but I would say that it's really about those keywords and those technologies and how it lines up to the qualifications and the requirements of the role. Okay, how should we mention that somehow in a cover letter? Um, oh, I guess you mean like how do we mention um how do we mention what we learned is enough to be classified? Mention how somehow in the cover letter. I think that it would really come down, if you're a self learner, talking about how the things that you worked on in your self learning projects, how they match up with the qualifications. Um, so yeah. How should we prepare for interviews for both technical and soft skills? Um, I would say that your cover letter is always a great spot. Taking a little course on maybe learning how to write persuasive writing would be a good option. Also, there's also, lots of examples of cover letters. And yeah, I would say preparing for those soft skills, working with others, learning how to communicate, checking in with, your networking community, your friends, and, your, professional friends, like that kind of stuff. Also, another great resource is talking to anybody, like professionals at your school who like your career services at school, because that's a really great place to find resources like that. What is the most important things that make our CV stand out among others, specifically if applying for different countries? It's your experience and your experience and those technical keywords, as well as your experience, not only as, job experience, but like what have you built and what tools have you built with, as well as yeah, just like, experience in the community. I would say that one of the things that happened for me in my experience in cloud advocacy is that I would say that it's really about it was really about me putting myself out there and speaking more, and that caught somebody's eye, and I applied to a role, and that was kind of my path here at Microsoft. This next question here: should we prepare our CV for American companies like Microsoft or Google? Again, I would say keep a separate resume. If you are interested in applying for in your country, but also considering the idea of working in America, have an American resume, tailored for American, for American companies like Microsoft or Google. Same kind of tips that I was saying before. You can use that, and then for your specific country, then yeah, definitely just have a separate one for that. So so yeah, and like again, like the skills will be the same. It's really about uh yeah, it's really about just having one for your American companies and one for your country's companies, if that's an option for you. Um so yeah, the preparation would essentially be the same. I don't see any more questions, but yeah, I mean, thank you all so much for answering your questions. I hope this was insightful and helpful. I know there is a lot of questions, but just keep in mind, I'm not a recruiter. I'm just talking from my experience as an engineer. And so, thank you all for coming to listen, and I hope you have a good iftar. So.
Ah, thank you, Jasmine, for your talk today and talking about your experience. We are really pleasure to have you, and we are really honored to have you today. Uh, at the end of the talk, before closing the live, I would like to thank Robo Academy and Fatah Sultan Mehmet University for supporting this kind of events and helping us, as well as Data Platform for helping us with the organization, and GitHub Education team. Hope to see you again in other events, and see you later. I will. Bye.